What would compel a 17-year-old to risk all, to dissemble and shelter a desperate secret in the dead of night? At 3 in the morning, Alistair Finch, a reclusive billionaire, found his governess's daughter washing dishes in his cavernous kitchen. Imogen Davies should have been at school, yet her hands were red, her eyes wide with terror. She guarded a desperate truth, willing to protect it at any cost. Alistair, a man who had forged his fortune by deciphering individuals, knew this was more than a daughter aiding her mother. It was a clue to a sacrifice he could not yet fathom. He had built an empire by identifying patterns, but sleep was a price he could not afford. That night, the silence of his vast empty manor in Kingswood was the most deafening sound, until it was ruptured. The grand hall clock chimed 3 in the morning, each heavy strike echoing through the marble corridor. Alistair Finch stood at the summit of the imposing staircase, his silk dressing gown fastened firmly. He was the magnate behind a global shipping empire, built upon anticipating dilemmas. He could foresee a storm in the North Atlantic and know which 300 vessels required a change of course, yet a solution to his own insomnia that he could not predict. Weary, he rubbed his eyes. The house was cold. He returned from the library, a heavy-bound volume of classical history still untouched. He had tried to read, tried to listen to music, tried to meditate. But his mind, the asset that forged his fortune, refused to disengage. It was then he heard it, not a perilous sound. His security was absolute. No one could breach the estate. It was a small noise, a secret sound, the gentle clink of a glass upon granite. Alistair froze. He listened. The sound emanated from the ground floor at the furthest end of the house. From the main kitchen, the rhythmic, hushed friction of a sponge against a plate. He descended the corridor, his leather slippers gliding silent over the plush carpets. As his mind raced, he made his way down the staircase. It was no thief. Thieves did not wash dishes. It was a staff member. But why? At such an hour? He pushed open the massive oak door of the main kitchen. The room was dim, lit only by the faint yellow glow above the professional range cooker. The kitchen was colossal, designed for grand events, a cavern of stainless steel and dark wood. And there, dwarfed by the counters, stood a girl. Bent over the deep stainless steel catering sink, her back to him. Small, slender, she scrubbed a lead crystal wine glass with a focused, desperate energy. Alistair cleared his throat. The girl gasped a sharp intake of breath. She spun so swiftly the glass slipped from her soapy hands. "Oh!" she exclaimed, lunging for it. She almost lost it, her knuckles white. Her eyes were wide. It was not mere surprise. It was terror. A terror too profound for a fright. "Mr. Finch," she murmured. He did not discern her identity. He had staff, but rarely saw them. They were managed by his chief of staff, Gareth Evans. "Who are you?" His voice, devoid of overt cruelty, carried the unquestionable authority of a man accustomed to prompt answers. I am Imogen, sir. Imogen Davies." She frantically dried her hands on a tea towel, her gaze darting between him and the doorway. "I am Bronwyn's daughter, Bronwyn Davies, the governess." Alistair's mind swiftly pieced together the fragments. Bronwyn, a good woman, dependable, discreet, always professional. Bronwyn had been with him for 5 years. "Imogen," Alistair stated, stepping fully into the kitchen. He flicked on the main lights. The immense room was flooded with a sterile white brilliance. The sudden glare made the girl flinch. He saw her clearly now. Young, perhaps 17. Her blonde hair, though pulled back in a disheveled, unraveling ponytail, clung in damp strands to her forehead. She was pale. The skin beneath her eyes was not merely shadowed. It was a profound, bruised darkness, etched by an exhaustion that defied mere sleep. She resembled an exhausted combatant, returned from weeks on the front lines. "What brings you to this place at such an hour?" Alistair Finch inquired, his gaze, now considerably softer, fixed upon her. "Where, pray tell, is your mother?" "She is ill, sir," Imogen Davies replied. The words emerged with a practiced swiftness, almost too polished in their delivery. "Just a strong flu." She felt terrible, concerned about the dinner service for the large social gathering. "I insisted I would see to it so she could rest." Alistair's eyes moved from the girl to the sink, It was overflowing. The remnants of a dinner for 30 lay piled high. Plates, pans, platters, dozens of glasses. A veritable mountain of catering-scale washing up. This was a task for 3, not for a child. Alistair repeated, doubt tangible. A strong flu. He turned back to face her. His astute mind dissected the transparent untruth. Terrible. A child of her age ought to be asleep. And she sent you, he probed, at 3 in the morning, to perform her duties. But Imogen did not yield. Her voice sharpened, becoming fiercely protective. The lingering terror gave way to a fleeting spark of defiance. She did not send me. She is unaware I am here. I let myself in. I possess a key. I assist her at weekends. I know her routine. I merely wished to finish before she awoke so that she would not worry. A courageous fabrication, Alistair mused. Yet a fabrication it remained. You should be abed, Alistair pronounced, crossing his arms. You have school tomorrow, or rather today. Imogen shivered. It was a subtle tremor, almost imperceptible. A rigid tightening of her shoulders, a swift lowering of her gaze. Alistair saw it. He had forged his fortune by discerning the minute tremors of his competitors across countless boardroom tables. A tremor revealed a hidden truth. Yes, sir, she whispered, her eyes fixed upon the floor. I shall finish swiftly. I promise I shall not trouble you again. I am very quiet indeed. She turned back to the sink as if he had been entirely dismissed. It was a clear, unspoken signal. Pray. Depart. Alistair, however, did not move. He stood there for a full minute watching her scrub. Her hands, small and chafed by the hot water and soap, were a painful sight. He looked around the kitchen, his gaze falling upon a backpack leaning against the service door. A faded, worn blue school backpack, its zippers strained, weighty. Attached to the main zip, a vibrant blue and gold sash of excellence. Alistair Finch narrowed his gaze. He recognized the sash. It was for the student delivering the valedictory speech. Beside it, in the mesh side pocket, was a small framed photograph. Ancient. A young woman and a man in an impeccable regimental parachute uniform. Alistair looked at the girl, at the mountain of crockery, at the sash of excellence, the sash of excellence, the washing up at 3 in the morning, the fabrication, the sheer exhaustion. These pieces did not coalesce. They were a shattered pattern. This broken pattern Alistair Finch detested. Leave the washing up, Alistair ordered. Imogen paused, her hands frozen in the soapy water. Leave it, go home, sleep. But my mother, she countered, her voice choked. She will be exceedingly vexed if it is not ready. She might face repercussions. I shall handle your mother, Alistair declared. His tone was not harsh, yet it permitted no rejoinder. Go home, Imogen. She hesitated. Her shoulders slumped. It was not merely relief, it was defeat, as if she had failed in her solemn mission. Yes, sir, thank you, sir. Swiftly, she shed the heavy catering apron, retrieved the backpack, slung it over one shoulder, and slipped through the service door, vanishing into the pre-dawn gloom. Alistair stood alone in the immense, silent kitchen. The quiet flooded the space once more, now laden with unanswered questions. In his mind, the distinction, a speaker. At the sink, a washer. He retired to his study. Sleep held no sway. He sat in his leather armchair, watching the ink-black sky lighten to grey. He waited. At 7 o'clock, he took up the telephone. Gareth, he stated when his chief of staff answered. Gareth Evans, his chief of staff for 20 years, was precise, efficient, and discreet. Mr. Finch, you are stirring early. I have 2 tasks for you, Gareth. Firstly, our governess, Bronwyn Davies. What is her situation? There was a pause. Alistair heard the faint click of a keyboard. Mrs. Alistair Finch's voice was contained, yet Gareth Evans' words already portended something. Davies has been inconsistent, sir. Numerous sick absences these past 2 months. I was in fact compiling a report to discuss her dismissal. Halt that immediately, Alistair commanded. The words emerged cold, sharp as honed steel. Secondly, her daughter, a girl named Imogen, around 17. She is a final-year secondary school student. I wish to know everything, her school, her grades, her attendance. Mr. Finch. Gareth's consternation was palpable. This was no ordinary request. That girl, Gareth, at 3 in the morning in my kitchen, whilst you were washing up after the party. She appeared profoundly broken. She wore a gold sash of excellence. It defies all reason. I must comprehend why. Immediately. One more thing, Gareth. The girl's rucksack. It contained a photograph. A soldier, in a military uniform, D Company, 2nd Battalion, Parachute Regiment, I believe. Ascertain his identity. Alistair drifted through the day in a haze. He attended meetings concerning fuel costs and shipping routes, conversed with executives in Singapore and London. Yet his mind remained tethered to that kitchen. He saw the terror in the girl's eyes. He saw the sash of honor. At 4 o'clock that afternoon, Gareth Evans appeared at his office door. He carried a slender beige folder. Gareth, usually a paragon of composure, now bore a mien of grave disquiet, visibly shaken. "Sir." He placed the folder upon the polished mahogany. "Proceed, Gareth." "You were correct about the girl, sir," Gareth began, opening the folder. "Imogen Davies, age 17, in her final year at Kingswood Academy." He slid a piece of paper across the table. It was a printout from the Academy's website, a smiling photograph of Imogen holding a certificate. "She is not merely a bright student, sir. She is the county's head girl, achieving top grades, A's. She has a full academic scholarship to the University of Durham, contingent only upon her graduation. 2 weeks prior, she was recognized as one of the country's most exceptional scholars, awarded a prestigious national honor for academic excellence." Alistair stared at the paper. A national scholar casting her future aside to wash my dishes. "This, sir," Gareth punctuated quietly, "is the very crux of the conundrum." He slid a second document forward, a formal attendance report from the local education authority. "I spoke with Kingswood Academy's headmistress. She had been profoundly distressed. 25 days ago, Imogen Davies ceased attending school. She has been marked for truancy. The headmistress is heartbroken. She stated she has called her mother Bronwyn, but the number is disconnected." 25 days, Alistair mused. The timeline aligned. A grim pattern began to coalesce. "Indeed, sir. She forfeited the deadline for scholarship acceptance. The Academy is compelled to report her truancy to the local education authority. She will not graduate. The scholarship vanished." The waste, the tragic, unadulterated waste. It struck Alistair with the force of a physical blow. It was more than a young woman simply missing classes. A brilliant light was being brutally extinguished. "Why, Gareth?" Alistair inquired, his voice low. "And the mother? What has become of her?" Gareth's voice became a somber register. "Bronwyn Davies. It was no common cold. She was diagnosed 2 months ago with a severe and aggressive form of lupus. The nascent treatments, the specialist's care, are being denied by insurers as experimental. The primary medication alone levied a cost of $750 per month." Alistair Finch's stomach tightened with a glacial knot. Bronwyn was dismissed from her second position at a local laundry due to absences necessitated by her illness, her employment, all that remained to them. Their telephone had been cut off for reasons of economy. £750 per month, Alistair stated. To him, a negligible sum, a mere rounding error. To them, it represented their entire future. "Imogen comprehends," Alistair observed. "She has been absent from her schooling for what purpose? To toil." "I am still investigating," Gareth responded, "but it appears she has also been covering her mother's shifts without remuneration, maintaining this house to avert her dismissal, striving to preserve the employment and the essential provisions which her ailing mother can no longer sustain." Alistair rose, a tide of indignation and sorrow surging within him. He moved towards the window. The soldier, Gareth. The photograph. Gareth slid the final sheet across the desk. A grainy black and white military photograph. "Captain Arthur Davies," Gareth stated. The dossier detailed Imogen's grandfather, Bronwyn's father, a decorated veteran of D Company, 2nd Battalion Parachute Regiment, deceased in 2010. Alistair Finch read the name. A profound chill pervaded his very being. D Company. He recoiled from the window, his vision obscured. His gaze settled upon a framed photograph. disregarded for years. Young men in uniform smiling amidst a dusty jungle. "My brother," Alistair whispered, barely discernible. "Tom. He was with D Company, and he never returned." He confronted Gareth Evans, his eyes pellucid and unyielding as ice. "Gareth, she is not merely an employee, she is family." "Sir, I require their address," Alistair commanded, his voice grave and perilous. "And ascertain Imogen Davies's current whereabouts." Alistair arrived at a block of apartments in Kingswood's Eastgate, unseen by him for 4 decades. Grey, dilapidated. His discreet Jaguar XF carried him. The Rolls-Royce remained. He needed invisibility. The building smelled of curry or kebab and worn carpet. He ascended 3 flights of stairs, the concrete cracked. He knocked on door 3B, a slow, painful shuffle. The door opened a crack held by a chain. An eye peered out. "Bronwyn," Alistair said softly. The door slammed shut. A muffled sob, the rattle of the chain. The door reopened. The woman before him, a spectre. A decade his junior, yet she appeared 20 years his senior. Hands swollen like talons, face grey with pain. She leaned heavily on a metal walking frame. Not the meticulous woman managing his household. "Mr. Finch," she gasped, her voice thick with shame. I had meant to call. I just—" "Bronwyn," Alistair interjected. "I came to see you." He stepped into the small, stripped-back apartment, immaculate yet cold. A tiny electric heater flickered weakly. "I saw Imogen yesterday," he revealed. Bronwyn's face crumpled. She sank onto the worn settee. "Oh God, she promised. I told her not to. I said I could still work. I just needed a few days." "Bronwyn, why did you not tell me you were ill?" "And say what?" she whispered, tears tracing paths down her pale cheeks. "That I cannot do my job? That you should dismiss me? This employment is all we have. The medical cover. It pays for basic appointments. It is everything." "The scholarship," Alistair murmured, his voice low. Bronwyn's head snapped up, her eyes wide with sharper agony. "The complete scholarship to Durham. Bronwyn, Durham. I know." A sound tore from Bronwyn, not a weep. A keening lament of pure, raw despair wrenched from the very depths of her soul. "I found the letter," she sobbed. "The one from Durham, in the bin. In the bin." I asked her, and she looked at me with those vacant, tired eyes, and she said, "What is a scholarship, Mother? Does it pay for your medicine? Does it keep the lights on?" Bronwyn clutched at her own hair, her swollen fingers trembling. "She is throwing everything away, her entire beautiful life, and for me, for 750. Alistair felt his heart fracture, a poverty he had long forgotten, that of impossible choices. "Where is she, Bronwyn? Where is she now?" "She found employment," Bronwyn whispered, averting her gaze as if confessing a felony. "A proper position, night shift, to remain here by day should I collapse. It's at a cafe, the Comet Cafe downtown." "Remain here," Alistair said. "Lock the door, I shall return." The Comet Cafe was cacophonous, brightly lit, redolent of stale coffee and congealed grease. Alistair Finch felt as if he had arrived in another realm. He settled into a booth in the corner, his bespoke wool coat seeming an incongruous disguise. An elderly waitress, her face kind but etched with weariness, approached. "What'll you be having, love?" "Just black coffee," Alistair said. He surveyed the bustling confines. Then he saw her. Imogen moved amongst the tables, a weighty brown serving tray balanced on one arm. Her blonde ponytail secreted beneath a simple blue cap. In a uniform several sizes too large, the name Patty embroidered in crimson, she moved. A mechanical efficiency, almost somber, dictated her steps. No facile smiles, only the task, refilling cups, clearing plates, jotting down orders. At 17, a brilliant student, Imogen Davies bore the burden of a lifetime's unrelenting toil. Alistair Finch observed her struggle to hoist a cumbersome tray piled high with soiled dishes. The manager, a short, irritable man with a stained shirt, barked an abrupt command. Imogen merely nodded, her face remaining impassive, and pressed on. She is just like her mother, Alistair Finch thought, battling a profound sense of surrender. He waited, savoring his bitter, lukewarm coffee. For 20 minutes he watched Imogen, watched her scurrying, striving for invisibility. As she cleared the adjacent booth, her arms overburdened with crockery. "Imogen," he said. It was not a shout, but his voice pierced the cacophony of the establishment. She froze. The clatter of crockery ceased. Slowly, Imogen turned. Her eyes met his gaze in the corner. Her face drained of color, all vestiges of blood abandoning her features. She stared at him, stared at the grease-stained uniform, stared at the half-eaten burger on the plate she held. The tray, overburdened, slipped from her trembling grasp. It struck the floor with a deafening crash. Plates shattered, glasses splintered. Ketchup and detritus of half-eaten meals splattered across the linoleum. The restaurant's raucous chatter fell silent. Frozen, she surveyed the sudden chaos. Gazing at Alistair Finch, her shoulders began to quake. "Davies!" the manager roared from behind the counter. The badge read Barry. "What do you think you're doing? That'll come out of your wages." Imogen did not even glance at Barry. Her eyes, previously filled with terror in the kitchen, now fixed upon Alistair Finch. A different, deeper emotion, total and utter humiliation. She sank to her knees. Her bare hands began to gather the shards of glass. "Davies, fetch a broom. Clear that up now." Barry shrieked, his face apoplectic. "You're lucky I don't sack you on the spot. A week's wages in the breakage, you imbecile. Enough." Alistair Finch's voice was not loud. It was low, cold, and laden with a formidable authority. It cleaved through the diner's silence more effectively than Barry's aggrieved shouts. Alistair Finch rose. He strode forward, positioning himself squarely between the manager and the fallen girl. A good handspan taller than Barry, he, even approaching his 70th year, exuded an unmistakable aura of absolute power. Barry, previously consumed by his tirade against Imogen, now focused entirely upon Alistair Finch, the expensive overcoat, the gleam of the gold watch, the undeniable countenance of a man utterly alien to the Comet Cafe. "And who exactly are you?" Barry stammered, his voice suddenly divested of its former aggressive fury. "This is my employee." "A mere child," Alistair Finch interjected, his voice cutting like ice. "And she is plainly unwell." He withdrew his leather wallet from his coat's inner pocket, extracting several crisp notes. 3 50-pound notes. He let them fall, almost with disdain, onto the counter. "This," he stated, "is for the broken crockery, for my coffee, and for your considerable inconvenience." Barry's eyes widened, greedily snatching the money at once. Alistair Finch turned his back upon Barry, a gesture of profound and utter dismissal. He knelt, his knees protesting with a slight, almost imperceptible groan, bringing himself to Imogen's eye level. She wept, silent tears carving sorrowful paths through the grime on her young face, still attempting to gather the shattered fragments of glass with hands that shook uncontrollably. "Imogen," he spoke, his voice now softened, yet imbued with an unwavering firmness. "Rise. You are leaving." I cannot," she whispered, the words catching painfully in her throat. My shift. I must." "Your shift is over." He extended his hand, a hand clean, firm, accustomed to the gravitas of signing contracts worth billions. She stared at it for a moment, seeing not a mere gesture, but a profound lifeline. Slowly, tremblingly, Imogen placed her small, grease-stained hand into his. Alistair Finch drew her upwards with an almost imperceptible effort, as if she possessed no weight at all. He did not release her. He kept her hand securely in his, gently turning her towards the exit, shielding her fragile form from the inquisitive gazes of the other patrons. "Wait," Barry cried out, the sudden, jarring perception of loss finally striking him, despite the employee he had so wantonly mistreated. "She has to stay." Alistair paused at the threshold, casting one last piercing look back at Barry. "It is over," he stated, with a profound finality that Barry felt resonate to his very marrow. Alistair Finch pushed open the glass door, guiding Imogen Davies out into the cold night, leaving behind the cacophony of shattered plates and the oppressive odor of stale fried onions. The car, a dark, heavy saloon, proved a profound cocoon of silence, far removed from Alistair's more conspicuous models. The subtle aroma of aged leather mingled with the faint residual hint of pipe tobacco. Despite the luxurious warmth of the heated seats, Imogen shivered uncontrollably, rigid, her hands still soiled from the diner floor, clasped tightly in her lap. Her eyes remained fixed upon the dashboard clock, 47. Not a single word had escaped her lips since he had settled her within. Shame consumed her, a terrible, vibrating agony. He had borne witness to her nadir, her absolute and crushing failure. Alistair drove with measured caution, his large hands resting lightly upon the steering wheel. The radio remained a silent, solemn presence. Only the rhythmic cadence of the wipers sought to disperse the thin, clinging mist from the windscreen. He observed her in the periphery, a frail silhouette in the deepening gloom, her face resolutely averted. "Your hands," he murmured, his voice a low timbre that broke the suffocating silence. "Are they cut?" Imogen flinched visibly, startled by his unexpected query. "What?" "The glass. Did you sustain a laceration?" She uncurled her fists slowly, a hesitant gaze falling upon them. She had felt nothing, numb to the preceding chaos, yet there it was, a slender, dark line of congealed blood marring her right palm. I do not know. It is quite all right." Alistair sighed, a sound that seemed to carry the weight of unseen burdens as he steered the car towards the curb of a tranquil tree-lined street. He firmly engaged the handbrake and activated the interior light, a soft amber glow, gentle as a lamp intended for quiet study. Beneath this revealing luminescence, he beheld her with unsparing clarity, her face streaked with grime, her once neat hair now hopelessly tangled where the clip had resided, and a nascent gash on her hand, a vivid, rhythmic pulse of crimson. She faced him, her eyes wide with a mixture of terror and bewildered indignation. "What are you doing?" "It will sting," he replied, his voice devoid of artifice. Without offering a further reply, Alistair reached into the meticulously maintained glove compartment. His car, a profound and revealing mirror of his meticulously ordered existence, was, unsurprisingly, impeccably organized. From its depths he retrieved a compact first aid kit, opened it with a precise motion, and carefully extracted antiseptic wipes and a sterile plaster. "Give me your hand," he commanded, his tone softened but unwavering. "No, it is. It is quite well. I shall undoubtedly soil your fine vehicle." Imogen attempted, futilely, to conceal her injured hands beneath her trembling legs. "Imogen." His voice, though gentle in its timbre, resonated with the same unyielding, steely resolve he had displayed moments earlier at the bustling cafe. "Give me your hand." She hesitated, then with palpable reluctance and a deep, inward struggle, extended her trembling hand towards him. He took it. His own hand, surprisingly warm and unexpectedly soft, yet possessing a firm, unyielding grip, enveloped hers entirely. He stemmed the slow, persistent flow of blood with a surgeon's careful precision, and then applied the stinging antiseptic wipe. Imogen hissed, a sharp intake of breath as the alcohol seared the raw wound. "I warned you," he stated, his gaze intently focused upon the task at hand. "A small price indeed. Tom always said, a sting now saves a headache later." With a precise, almost paternal tenderness, he completed cleansing the wound and carefully dressed her palm. His movements, though economical, were profoundly deliberate. Imogen watched him, her breath held captive within her chest, a silent observer of the extraordinary. This was Alistair Finch, the formidable magnate who deftly moved global markets, who, by common estimation, held sway over half of Kingswood itself. And here he sat, in a stationary, luxurious vehicle, attending to her with a solicitous care that bordered on the paternal. The profound kindness of this unexpected tableau, its very unsettling absurdity in the face of her abject humiliation, finally shattered her rigid composure. A solitary warm tear slipped silently down her grimy cheek, soon followed by another, tracing paths through the accumulated dirt. He finished, and without meeting her gaze, extended a pristine silk pocket square from his jacket's breast pocket. "For your face," he offered softly. He then engaged the gear and smoothly returned to the thoroughfare. Imogen slowly dried her face. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice a barely audible, frail and hoarse murmur. "You are welcome," he replied with quiet gravitas. They proceeded in a heavy silence for several more blocks. "Durham," he eventually stated, breaking the quiet. "Sir, that is the plan, is it not? Or was it Durham University?" "Why?" Imogen fixed her gaze on the now dampened silk handkerchief clutched in her lap. "I possess a keen interest in history and governmental affairs. I had envisioned a career within the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office or something of that exacting nature." "You wish to serve?" The inquiry, though simple, hung between them, pregnant with unspoken meaning. "Yes," she affirmed, her voice gaining a fractional strength. "A noble objective indeed," he commented, a hint of admiration in his tone. "It is an arduous ambition to achieve if one is not attending school." Imogen's profound shame returned, a searing, acute sensation. "You do not understand." "Then make me understand, Imogen," Alistair said, his voice measured. "I see a young woman, a Kingswood Academy Sash of Excellence student, the head girl, with a full scholarship to an excellent university, and you throw it all away." "I did not throw it away," she retorted, her voice thick with unshed tears. The world's rage, all its profound injustice, erupted from within her. "I didn't throw it away. What was I supposed to do?" Open tears streamed down her face, the sobs she had held captive in the cafe finally breaking free. "What choice was there? I came home from school, the letter from Durham University clutched in my hands. So happy. I rushed inside and Mum was on the floor, unable to get up. The pain was so consuming it wouldn't even allow her to cry." Alistair listened, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. The doctor had diagnosed lupus. The old medication had failed. She needed a new one from a specialist. The private treatment wasn't covered by the NHS. £750 a month, just for the pills. Not even the doctor nor the tests. Disregarding all propriety, Imogen wiped her nose with his handkerchief. "She lost her second job. The work at your house? It's all that's left." I saw her trying to scrub the floors, weeping with her hands swollen. "She would have been dismissed. We would have lost the flat. We would have lost everything." Her voice faded to a whisper. "So, I threw the letter away. I rang the school, said I wasn't coming back. I took her phone, blocked the headmistress's number. I had to do it. So she wouldn't ring Mum." Alistair completed her thought. "And you started working. I had to cover her shifts at your house for no pay, so Gareth Evans wouldn't find out about her illness. I got the job at the Comet Cafe, the night shift. £9.50 an hour. I was saving for the medicine, almost there, just needed one more week." Exhausted, the confession left her utterly drained. Imogen leaned her head against the cold window glass. "I hate this," she whispered. "I hate it, but I love my mum. How could I go to history class, write about politics while my mother wasted away? What is a scholarship worth if I lose her?" Alistair remained silent, driving, processing. This was not a girl who simply skipped school. She was a soldier, one who had made a terrible tactical choice on a losing front. He stopped in front of the same grey block of flats from that afternoon. "You are identical to your mother," he said. "What?" "She lied too." Alistair turned to her. "She tried to hide her illness to protect her job, to protect you. You lied to protect her. You are a family of terrible liars and both of you are dreadful at it." A watery smile almost touched Imogen's lips. "You are also very proud," he added. "And your pride costs you your future, your mother's health." It's our problem, sir. I'll pay you back for the dishes, I don't know how." "Stop talking about the dishes." The irritation in his voice was palpable. "The dishes do not matter. The cafe does not matter. The £750 do not matter. They matter to us." "They do not matter," he repeated, his voice absolute. "Get out of the car. We are going to see your mother." The ascent of the 3 flights was a markedly different affair. Imogen led the way, her shoulders bowed by the profound weight of defeat. Alistair followed, a steadfast and relentless presence. She fumbled with the key. Her bandaged hand rendered the task arduous. The door yielded. Within the darkened flat, Only the dim glow of the tiny electric heater offered what little light there was. Bronwyn lay upon the sofa, shrouded in a thin blanket, her countenance a mask of pure terror. She had no doubt been awaiting them by the door, conjuring the bleakest of outcomes. Upon discerning Imogen in her grimy cafe uniform, she gasped, "Imogen! Oh, darling, what has happened? Are you hurt?" Bronwyn Davies questioned, before her gaze registered Alistair Finch filling the doorway behind her. Bronwyn's face transfigured from abject fear to profound shame. She attempted to rise, to assume the dignified bearing of the housekeeper, but her legs betrayed her. She sank back into the seat. "Mr. Finch," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. I do not know what to say." "She was working the night shift at a cafe," Alistair Finch interjected, stepping further into the small room, "to pay for your medication. The medication you neglected to tell me you required." The truth hung heavy in the cold air, raw and desolating. Bronwyn looked at Imogen. Imogen fixed her gaze upon the floor. You told him," Bronwyn whispered to her daughter. He was there, Mum, at the cafe. I dropped a tray, shattered everything. "I am so sorry, Mum, I am truly sorry." Imogen's defenses crumbled. She rushed to the sofa and collapsed, burying her face in her mother's lap, convulsing with sobs. Bronwyn enveloped her daughter in her arms, her own swollen, painful hands stroking Imogen's hair. With eyes brimming, she fixed her gaze upon Alistair, who loomed over them like an unforgiving judge. "Please," Bronwyn implored, tears coursing down her face. Do not punish her. The fault is mine, all of it. I fell ill. I could not cope. I am so sorry. I shall pay for everything she broke. I shall work without recompense. Only, please do not alert the authorities. Do not harm my daughter." Alistair observed the two women, clutching one another amidst an ocean of debt, illness and fear. A sudden pang struck him in the chest. It was not his heart. It was something far more ancient, the recollection of his own mother upon the arrival of the telegram, the memory of a house that possessed all the world's fortune yet harbored no joy. "Harm her?" Alistair inquired, his voice softer than intended. "Bronwyn, I am not here to harm her. I am here to prevent you from harming her." Bronwyn stared at him, bewildered. "What? Your pride, her pride. You are permitting her to destroy her own life, her entire brilliant future, because you are too proud to ask for assistance." "Assistance?" Bronwyn repeated, as if the word itself were alien. "From whom? Who offers succor to people such as us?" "I offer it," Alistair stated with stark simplicity. He moved towards the sole-worn armchair and sat. He was no longer the imposing billionaire. He was merely an old man in a small, cold room. This is what will transpire," he declared. It was not a request, but a pronouncement. "Tomorrow at precisely 9 o'clock a motorcar shall arrive here. It will convey you, Bronwyn, to the Bristol Specialist Clinic. I have conferred with a physician there, Dr. Rhys Morgan. He is the preeminent specialist in the country for your condition. An old friend." Bronwyn regarded him, agape. I cannot. The outlay, I cannot." "You shall not deliberate upon costs," Alistair affirmed. "You shall deliberate upon your health. Everything. The conveyance, the treatment, the medicaments. All has been arranged. It is defrayed." "But why?" Alistair raised a hand. "I have not concluded. Imogen." Imogen lifted her tear-streaked countenance from her mother's lap. "My assistant, Gareth Evans, will attend Kingswood Academy at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. He will convene with the head teacher to elucidate the familial exigency that necessitated your absence. He shall ensure your final examinations are undertaken. You shall graduate. Your record of truancy will be rectified." Imogen's eyes were wide. "But the scholarship? I missed the deadline. It is forfeit." "Deadlines," Alistair countered, a rare and subtle smile touching his lips, "are often mere suggestions for individuals lacking in persuasion. Gareth is exceptionally, profoundly persuasive. He will engage with the Durham University Admissions Board this very evening. You will accept your full scholarship. You will proceed to Durham in the autumn. This is conclusive." a profound silence pervaded the chamber. Bronwyn and Imogen merely gazed upon him, utterly stunned. In the span of 2 minutes, he had unraveled complexities that had crushed them for many months. Bronwyn was the first to speak, her voice a fragile whisper. "Mr. Finch, why? This is benevolence. We cannot accept. It is too much." Alistair leaned forward. The weariness of his 3 o'clock in the morning vigil had resurfaced, yet it was a different strain of fatigue. "This is not benevolence, Bronwyn." Alistair Finch regarded her, his gaze scrutinizing every line of her face. "I arrived here this afternoon. I observed your apartment. I discerned a photograph near the portal." Bronwyn's gaze drifted to the small, cluttered side table. "A photograph? Small? A man in uniform? Army?" Bronwyn's hand rose to her throat. My father," Alistair confirmed. "Captain Arthur Davies." "Yes," Bronwyn responded, her voice thick with profound pride. "Captain Arthur Davies," Alistair assented slowly. "I knew," he whispered. "I had suspected, but I required certitude." Bronwyn hesitated. You knew my father?" "No," Alistair corrected. "I never held that honor, but I was acquainted with him." Alistair paused, the words heavy. A history, silenced for 50 years, was on the precipice of revelation. "I possessed an elder brother," he divulged, his voice distant, his eyes fixed upon the wall, upon some point in the bygone era. "Thomas was his name, Tom. He was my antithesis, boisterous, jocular, fearless. I idolized him." Imogen and Bronwyn listened motionless. "I was at university studying business. Tom, he enlisted in the D Company, 2nd Battalion, Parachute Regiment. He was sent to Vietnam D Company." Bronwyn's eyes widened. That was my father's company." "Yes," Alistair confirmed. "Your father was his captain, but Tom never returned home. He was 20 years old. The loss annihilated my mother. It tore our family apart." Alistair lowered his gaze to his own hands, the hands that had built an empire. After it happened, my mother simply withered. But then a letter arrived. It was from a captain, Arthur Davies, your father. He wrote about Tom. He told her my brother was brave. He described how Tom saved 2 other men. He assured my mother he was not alone, that he held his hand. He said he was proud to have served alongside him. Alistair had to pause, clearing his throat. 3 letters. Bronwyn, written by a man who had never seen her, to a mother torn apart by loss. Those letters were the only thread that kept my mother alive, an inestimable gift of peace. He gave us back the memory of my brother. Alistair reached into the inner pocket of his jacket, drawing out his wallet. From a worn, hidden fold, he removed a small square piece of paper, ancient, cracked at the folds. It was a photograph, the same one from his mantelpiece, a group of young men in the jungle. He extended it to Bronwyn, who took it with a trembling hand. She saw a group of tired, smiling lads. In the center, a young man with a kind, strong face. Beside him, a taller lad smiling openly with his arm over his shoulder. That's my father," Bronwyn whispered, her finger tracing the face. "And that," Alistair pointed to the smiling lad, "is my brother Tom." Imogen leaned forward, her eyes wide. She saw her grandfather, young and vibrant, a man she had only known as a quiet old man, smelling of tobacco. "Your father," Alistair continued, his voice thick with emotion, "left no one behind, neither his men nor their memory." Alistair looked at Imogen. He saw her pale, exhausted face, the honor in her gaze, her grandfather's eyes. "I have been a very rich man for a long time," Alistair confessed, "but I have always carried an unpayable debt, a debt to your father for his kindness, for his honor." He rose. "This is not charity, it is family, it is a debt, 50 years overdue. Your grandfather saved my family, Bronwyn. Now please let me help his." Alistair checked his watch. It was well past midnight. "A car will be here at 9 tomorrow morning for you, Bronwyn," he reiterated, his voice gentle yet firm. "Please be ready. Dr. Reese Morgan's team will be waiting." Bronwyn merely nodded, her eyes still fixed on the old photograph in her hand. "Imogen," he called. She lifted her gaze, her face flushed and swollen. "I will meet you at your school at 8:30 in the morning. My assistant, Gareth Evans, will meet you there. You will proceed within, speak with your headmistress, and arrange your final examinations." "Yes, sir," she whispered. "Good." Alistair walked towards the door, then paused. Alistair Finch instructed Gareth Evans, "Re-establish the utilities, procure groceries. One cannot thrive when chilled or starved." Alistair looked at Bronwyn Davies. "Thomas Finch never abandoned anyone, Bronwyn," he said. "Your family warrants the same." He departed. The click of the door resonated. For a minute, mother and daughter remained motionless. Then Bronwyn released a fractured sigh, half a sob, half a laugh. Imogen Davies rushed into the kitchen, her body yielding to the night's stress. When the tremors subsided, Bronwyn stood there, supported by her walking frame, holding a glass of water. "Mother," Imogen whispered, her throat raw. Is this real?" Bronwyn surveyed the frigid flat, the disconnection notices and Imogen's discarded uniform. Her eyes settled upon the faded photograph in her hands. "I believe so, my dear." Bronwyn's voice quivered. "I believe. Your grandfather has just saved us." The ensuing fortnight unfolded as a maelstrom. It was akin to witnessing a life reassembled by an unseen, efficient contingent. At 8:30, Imogen, still trembling, met Gareth Evans at Kingswood Academy. In his immaculate suit, he orchestrated every detail with professional calm. The headmistress, Mrs. Pendleton, emerged from her office, her countenance a blend of relief and apprehension. "Imogen, oh my dear, we have been so dreadfully concerned." "A family medical emergency, Mrs. Pendleton," Gareth explained, tendering a folder. "Imogen has served as her mother's principal carer. Herein is the documentation from the Bristol Specialist Clinic." The headmistress's eyes swept across the letters, her rigidity dissolved, supplanted by profound empathy. "Poor child," she told Imogen, "why did you not speak of this?" I knew not how," Imogen whispered. Gareth affirmed, "All matters are resolved. We merely require her final examinations to be scheduled." "Of course, yes. Anything you require." Whilst Imogen was at school, a car awaited Bronwyn. Terrified, she encountered nurses at the Bristol Specialist Clinic who already knew her name. Dr. Rhys Morgan, gentle with warm eyes, sat with her for a full hour. "We will rectify this," he pledged. "Your duty is to recuperate." For the first time in a year, Bronwyn Davies slumbered without pain, without fear. Within the flat, the power was restored. The heater clicked to life, warming the rooms. An online grocery delivery brought forth boxes of sustenance, real food. Imogen Davies immersed herself in her studies. At her desk, amidst open volumes, she toiled, preparing for her examinations. The words were no longer a phantom echo of a life lost. They were a meticulously charted course for the future. The graduation ceremony dawned, brilliant and suffused with warmth. The Kingswood Academy grounds, adorned with rows of chairs, accommodated the auspicious occasion. Imogen was seated upon the dais, resplendent in her blue academic gown and golden sash of excellence. Her gaze swept across the assembled throng. In the third row, her eyes alighted upon them. Her mother, confined to a wheelchair, was not the fractured, ashen woman of months past. The cruel swelling of her hands had receded, her hair carefully coiffed. Bronwyn smiled, her eyes brimming with a profound pride that Imogen perceived, even from the dais. Beside her, in a plain grey suit, sat Alistair Finch. He bore the aspect more of a benevolent grandfather than a shipping magnate. Their gazes met. Alistair offered no smile, merely a solemn nod. A gesture imbued with profound respect. When her name echoed, Imogen Davies, student of academic distinction, the applause was thunderous. She walked to the podium, unfolding her speech, her eyes gliding over notes, yet fixed on her mother and Alistair. She folded the paper, set it down. "Good morning," she said, her voice clear and firm. "My speech was about the future, but I will not speak of it." She gripped the podium firmly. "I wish to speak of what happens when we see no future. I wish to speak of kindness. History, we believe, is made by great figures, statesmen, billionaires. She observed Alistair stir, almost imperceptibly. Yet history, at its profoundest core, is woven by small, deliberate choices. Choices made by individuals, weary and fearful, who nonetheless resolve to act with probity. A soldier penning words of comfort to a mother he had never met, a mother who risked everything to shield her daughter from pain. Individuals who, upon witnessing another falter, do not merely pass by. They halt, and they extend a hand. Imogen fixed her eyes upon her mother. "My future is not, in truth, entirely my own," she declared with solemnity. "It was earned by my grandfather 5 decades past, earned by my mother who laid bare her very health upon the altar of sacrifice, and redeemed by a man who comprehends a singular truth. No soul, ever, should be abandoned." She drew a deep, measured breath. "Congratulations to my cohort. We have prevailed. Yet do not merely strive for success. Be kind, for it is through kindness that the world may truly be reshaped. Thank you." A silence settled over the graduation grounds. Then applause erupted, not polite, but a roaring crescendo. Her classmates rose to their feet, their parents too. Mrs. Pendleton wept. Bronwyn sobbed uncontrollably, and Alistair, his expression grave yet eyes gleaming, offered comfort, a reassuring hand upon her shoulder. A month thence Bronwyn returned. Though not cured, for lupus is no mere fleeting ailment, she was in remission. The new medication, the assiduous treatment, had restored her life. She, by her own resolute initiative, stood now within Alistair's private library. "Alistair," she commenced, yielding to his gentle but firm insistence that she address him by his given name. "There are no words, Alistair, to convey my gratitude, but I cannot abide being a mere recipient of charity. I must work, I must do something." Alistair offered a subtle smile, a silent expectation thus confirmed. "You are quite correct. I concur entirely. It is precisely why I have a position for you." His gaze indicated a stack of archive boxes on his desk. "My mother left a small fund," he explained. "She called it the Delta Company Benevolent Fund. Her idea, small grants for the children and grandchildren of veterans, help with books, a property deposit, a gesture of kindness, and as she called it." He sighed. "Upon her passing, the fund lay dormant. I was occupied, building my empire. I simply forgot." His gaze grave met hers. "I have reactivated the fund. I have endowed it properly. But it needs a director. It needs someone to read the letters, to find those in need of aid, to be its heart." Bronwyn stared at him, bewildered. "But I am a housekeeper." "No," Alistair replied, firm. "You are the daughter of a veteran, a woman who understands sacrifice, who comprehends what it is to be in need and too proud to ask. I can think of no one more qualified." Bronwyn observed the boxes. It was not charity they offered her, but purpose. "Yes," she said, her voice clear. "Yes, I would be honored." Summer was taking its leave. A crisp, late August morning heralded the change. Imogen was departing for Durham. Bronwyn, in remission, saw her off from the bright new flat. Alistair's Jaguar XF pulled up and he stepped out. "All set?" he inquired. "All set," Imogen replied, her smile radiant. "A few provisions," he said, presenting a box. Within, a new laptop for her PPE, or International Relations Studies. "Alistair, this is too much," she murmured, a note of protest in her voice. Next, he handed her a flat, square envelope. "And this?" She opened it. It was a simple, dark wood frame. The photograph revealed young men in the jungle, her grandfather, Arthur Davies, and Alistair's late brother, Tom. "But this is yours," she said. "From your desk?" "No," Alistair corrected her gently. "The one on my desk was my mother's. This was Tom's. It was in his wallet, amongst his effects sent home. Stored in a box. I believe he would wish you to have it to remember who you are." Imogen's eyes welled with tears. She embraced him, not a small or timid embrace, but a true embrace of pure gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything, for truly seeing me." He patted her back, his throat tight with emotion. "Go," he urged. "Do not be late. Durham does not wait." She hugged her mother, a long, tight embrace. "I love you, Mum. Take your medicine." "I will." Bronwyn laughed, wiping away a tear. "Call me every night." "I will." Imogen Davies entered the minicab. Through the rear window, as the car drew away, she saw Bronwyn healthy and strong, and Alistair Finch, the billionaire, too restless for slumber. He embraced Bronwyn's shoulders, two souls from such disparate worlds, standing on the pavement watching the future they had built together depart. Alistair Finch remained, his gaze fixed until the car vanished from sight. He then looked up at the brilliant blue sky. He had built an empire by deciphering patterns, storms, markets, competitors. Yet, for half a century, the most crucial had eluded his gaze. He had sought to settle a debt to the past, not realizing that the true payment belonged to the future. A strange, novel sensation filled his chest. A quietude, a peace. "Come, Bronwyn," he uttered, turning her towards his car. "There is work to be done at the office." And for the first time in many years, he sensed that perhaps he might finally sleep that night. Thus, we conclude our journey with a 50-year debt finally settled. We trust this narrative, illustrating how a solitary gesture of kindness can resonate across generations and forge a new future, has afforded you a moment to pause and reflect. We would be delighted to learn what you were engaged in whilst listening. Were you unwinding at the close of day, or commencing your morning with a calming cup of tea? Please do leave your esteemed comments below. We do genuinely peruse each and every one. To ensure you do not miss our subsequent tale, a like and your subscription would make an immense difference. We are perpetually striving for betterment and thus feel entirely at liberty to share your valuable feedback. We extend our profound gratitude for having spent this time with us.